Welcome everybody to the, I'm looking at this, the 37th Advanced Dungeons and Dynamics 365 Bare Bones Configuration Guide live stream, where we're configuring Dynamics 365 finance and operations, that is, from the ground up, and we're sort of working through all the modules and getting through the system. So for what we're going to do today is we're going to continue working on the accounts payable area. And in the past couple of live streams, we've been configuring some of the accounts payable, and we just created some vendors and then created some import files and was able to pull in those vendors and get those vendors into the system. So that was pretty neat. Now, what we're going to do today is we're going to go out and we're going to create some simple invoices for these vendors. So services that we've rendered with them that we need to pay. And I think this may be such a short section looking at the content that we may continue on to the next module, which is the payment of the vendor, and we'll see how that works. And we may hit two modules at once. So with that said, let's dive in and work through this. So what I've got here is I've got the lab environment that we're working with, that we've been configuring up until this point. It's for the Waterdeep Trading Company, the purveyor of the finest adventuring supplies and goods in all of Faerûn. And we're working through the setup. And if we look at what we did in the previous live stream, what we had, we went and we created a number of vendors which we're working with. So that these could be vendors that are supplying us goods, or we could have services with them, or later on we may create some tax vendors and for tariffs and whatever may be applied in the city of Waterdeep. But for now, we've got these vendors set up. So what we're going to do is we're going to move over and look at. Let me look at where I am. Oh, I'm in the wrong screen here. Let me pull up the right document that we've got here. So what we've got is this is the guide that we're currently working through. And for those of you that don't know, then these bare bones configuration guides are broken out by module, or by module within Dynamics 365 or application area. And then also we've got all of these different labs that you can work through within those modules to give you a step-by-step instruction on how to configure Dynamics. So right now we're in the accounts payable area, and we're currently working through the invoicing. We don't have a lot to do here because almost everything's set up for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to go out and we're going to create some vendor invoices. So again, these are invoices that are sent to us that we need to pay, and we're going to create these as journals, where later on when we configure the purchasing module, then what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to create a purchase order and then receive it and then invoice and do three-way matching associated with it. But right now we haven't got that far. So we just want to record the journals in the system. So we're going to go out and we're going to record a vendor invoice as a journal, and we're going to create it. And if I look here, then it's for some baked goods that we're buying, and it's a miscellaneous expense right now. And then we'll think we'll do some approvals that are in there as well. So let's go back and have a look at that. So what I want to do is I want to go to the invoice journal. Now, if I go out and if I do a search, then you'll see that there's a number of different invoice journals that we can access. We want the one in the accounts payable area, not in the accounts receivable. And I think that that's just a report that we're doing and so forth. So we can access this through the menu. I know that I want invoice journal, so I'm just doing a search here, or I can go over to the accounts payable area, go to invoices, and go to invoice journal as well. There's some other different types of journals that we can create. For example, global invoice journals. If we had multiple legal entities, then there's a different way that we manage that. But for us, we just want to go out and create an invoice journal. So this is going to take us into the invoice journal, and I can now go in and create a new invoice journal here. And I need to create an invoice journal. I'll need to select an invoice journal name. So we created this in the earlier sessions where we were setting up the invoices, and this is one of the general ledger journals or journal names we set up, and it's a specific type of a journal if we look at it, and for the AP invoice, and it's a vendor invoice recording journal that we have here. So this is the only type of journal that's going to show up here in the accounts payable. So let's go and select that. And what we're going to do is we're going to say that this is an AP invoice, and I'm going to add sort of like a description in here as well. So now that we've got the header for the AP invoice journal, then what we can do is we can go to the lines, and now we can start recording all the transactions that we had against this. So this is what we're going to do is we're going to say that this is for the Bakers Guild, and then the invoice date we're going to set to today, and the invoice number will be 001, and we're going to say this is baked goods, and then this is going to be for 200 that's 200 Faerûnian standard dollars. Or also what we could do is we could say that this is 4 or 5 Faerûnian gold pieces as well. So we're going out and we can use the multi-currency to go out and work out the difference. So if I do that, then what's going to happen, just as a side note, is, and let me make this bigger for you all, is that we've got 5 gold pieces here, but it's converting that to 63 Faerûnian standard dollars. So the conversion rate between gold pieces and Faerûnian standard dollars is 12.6. So one gold piece equals 12.6 Faerûnian standard dollars, and it's doing that calculation for us. I won't get the calculator out, but I'm pretty sure that's what the calculation is. Now, also what we want to do is we want to have an offset account. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for, let's choose just general expenses for now, and we can say it's for the Waterdeep Trading Company, and maybe this was for operations. We're starting to buy some goods for the property, for the Waterdeep Trading Company, and we can specify a cost center. So we can go out and we can specify a fully qualified account, or I can just say that the offset account is 6280, which is for the general expenses. So now that we've done that, then I've got a note here that we can also go over and say that, let me see, we can find, I'm just trying to find this on the invoice. We can specify who approved this. So one thing that you'll notice here is I'm in a table form, but there's all of these different tabs along the top. And each of these go into different areas of the system of the configuration. If I choose invoice, then we can go out and we can specify some of the other additional details here. So for example, what are the payment terms? For us, for the Bakers Guild, it's net 15. We have to pay by check, or maybe we're going to pay by electronic payment. And also this is approved by Greta Ironfist, which is the only employee that we've got set up in the system right now. She's the owner of the company. So I can save this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to validate this. And what this is going to do is this is going to just make sure that everything is okay. For example, the invoice dates are correct and that I had a valid offset account that's associated with this and all of these other things. And I'm not going to have any cash discount. So I'm going to take this, I'm just going to post it. So this is all we're doing here. Now I could go out, and if I had batches of invoices for different vendors, I could have multiple lines here and I could enter them all in batch, and then they're individually going to be linked back to the different vendors that we have. So now that we've done that, what we can do is we're going to go out and we can look at the vendor invoices. So we can actually show this a couple of different ways. I've got one item here where I want to go out and just look at all of the open invoices. So I can do that just by going over to here, and I can do a search for open vendor invoices. And I can find that within the accounts payable. Also, I can go over to here and go in the invoices, I can look at the open vendor invoices here as well. So this is going to take us into the invoice, and we can see that we've got our payment here for, let me just make a note of this, for 5 Faerûnian gold pieces, which is 63 Faerûnian standard dollars. And if I wanted to, I can go and look at the voucher information that's associated with this. And I can see the transactions. So you can see that I'm posting to accounts payable, and the offset account is the general expenses for the baked goods for the Waterdeep Trading Company and operations and so forth. So that's all being created for me. I can go into the transaction and see the batch transaction that's here. And then also I can see any original documents that are here, which there aren't a lot. It's really just a purchase invoice that's being created. So I'm going out and I'm just sort of working through this. Now that ends the vendor invoicing right now. We really can't do a lot because we'll be able to do a lot more when we get the purchasing configured. But we can create as many of these invoices, and this could be a valid way that we go out and manage all of our invoices. But what we're going to do is, let me just change this, is we're going to, because we have a little bit of time, then let me go up to here. Then we're going to go to the next module. So this was a very short module and very quick. And we're going to go out and do some payments. So I'm pretty sure that all of the payments are configured. So what we now want to do is we want to take the money that we've got in the bank and go out and pay this vendor. And we do that through creating a payment journal and through payment proposals. So a payment proposal is saying, I'm going to pay this, and then the payment journal gets approved, and then that's what we're going to disperse from the bank or create checks or the equivalent inside of Faerûn. So what we're going to do is we're going to work through this. We're going to create a payment journal. We're going to then create a payment proposal for what do we need to pay. And then we're going to create the payments. And maybe we'll create a check after that. We'll find out in just a second. We'll see if that works. So let's move back to the server, and let's finish today off by keeping all of our accounts up and ready and paying some checks. So what we want to do is we want to go, and I'm going to create a vendor payment. So I can do that. I can do that just by searching for the vendor payment journal, which is the form that we want. Or I can go over to accounts payable, and then I can go to payments, and then I can find the vendor payment journal here. So we're just going to open that up. And I'm going to create a new payment. So this is my vendor payment, and this will be for, what's the date? 9/17. So this is what we're going to do for our payment. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to go into the line. So this is actually what we want to pay. Now I can go out and I could say that I know that I want to pay the Bakers Guild, and so I can choose the Bakers Guild, and I could specify that I'm going to credit them, I think, the 63 Faerûnian standard dollars. But what a better way to do this is, if I remove this line, is I can go out and create a payment proposal. And I'm going to say that I want to create this based off maybe the due date, or I could say that I want to create a list of payments based off a preferred payment or early payment discount or cash discount payment. But I'm just going to go out and create this. So what it's doing is it's finding everything that I need to pay, and then it's going to find the Bakers Guild that I've got here. And then also it's going to allow me to select this and add this to the link. Now what I need to do here is I need to I'm just checking. There's one thing I need to do here, and I think and it's already defaulted in. You need to make sure that this method of payment is specified on your payment proposal. So this is saying, how do I want to pay for this? And I'm just going to create that payment. So what that has done is that's automatically added in that payment for 5 Faerûnian gold pieces, which is going to be a check, and it's being paid from the operating account, which I'm using, which is in Faerûnian standard dollars, which, if we look down to the voucher, is for 63 Faerûnian standard dollars. Even though we've got an invoice for 5 Faerûnian gold pieces, then it understands the currency conversion, and it converts it back to 63 Faerûnian standard dollars. So now that we've done that, we can go out and we can say, I want to generate the payments. And the method of payment is going to be check. So I just want to go and print these out, or I want to manually create them. And I want to choose my bank account, which is going to be my operating account in Faerûnian standard dollars. And I could go out and I could filter this, and I could say, what do I want to pay? But I'm just going to select all of them, and I'm going to go OK. Now what it's doing is it's creating the payments, and it's asking me what is the number of the check that I'm creating for this. So usually when you have when you've got the checks, you have a checkbook and you have a sequential number of checks. So what I'm saying is, when I look at that checkbook, the next current check is going to be 1. If I do an electronic payment, then this is going to be different. There's going to be the bank will really handle all the payments that are associated with it. And then I can, let's see, I'm going to go to the payment advice, and what I can do is I can say, how do I want to print this? And I'm going to print this to screen. So I think if I choose the payment advice to be shown, and then I'm not going to create any blank checks, and if everything is valid, then I should be able to just go OK. And the system is going out and creating these payments for me. So let's go and have a look and see if there's any messages. Check may only be created. Okay, so what that is saying is that I'm going to change this, and I'm going to change this, and I'm going to pay in Faerûnian standard dollars, which is still the same amount. It's still 5 gold pieces. The currency conversion was right. So let's try this once more. Let's generate the payments. Check number 1. So now it's going out and paying that for me. Now, an alternative way that I could have done this is I could have gone out and I could have created the check. So this is giving me an error on the check printing. But I could have gone and ran this, and instead of using the offset account for the operating account for Faerûnian standard dollars, I could have paid from my gold reserves and paid that as well. So this has now been updated, and you'll notice that there's a check number here. So the payment has been sent. It's a method of payment check, and the check number is 1. And then all that is left to do is we can validate this to make sure that this is a valid posting, which it will, and then I can go out and I can post this. So we've gone out and we've created a payment run. We've selected what we want to pay on this. We've paid that. We've ran the check. We've either created a check or electronic payment. It's assigned the check number, and then everything is fine for that. Now, if we go back and move back to the final step that we've got here, then what we can do is we can go and let's look at the vendor and look at the transactions that are associated with this. And what we should see that we received an invoice from the vendor and we paid that, and the vendor outstanding balance should be 0. And we're going to do that through the vendors, although we can actually do that in a number of different ways. So let's go back to here and look at our go to our vendors. And let's go into the Bakers Guild that we configured. And then what I can do is I'm going to go to the vendors, and I'm going to look at the transactions. So here we've got the invoice that was created, and the invoice is for 5 Faerûnian gold pieces. If we look at the transaction currency, then this is 63 Faerûnian gold pieces. So that was invoiced. And then what we did is we also went out and we created a payment. So, and we can look at the journal names, because remember we put the sort of like a constant in the journal names. We can see that this is an AP invoice, and then this is an AP payment. We made a payment in Faerûnian standard dollars of 63, which if we go over and look at the amount here, then that matches up to the amount that we have, and then that's going to zero out the amount on the vendor account. So now we're clear, and I don't think. Let's have a look at see if we need to settle any transactions. So there are no unlinked transactions here, and then also if I look at the settlement history, then actually there is a settlement here, which is linking. If we look at the transactions, it's going out and linking the payment back to the invoice that was associated with it. So here's the original invoice, and then the settlement transaction that's linking back to here. We can also go back, and if we go to the vendor, we can look at the balance that's associated with the vendor, and we've got a 0 balance now on the vendor. So we didn't see this as we went through, but we actually could have had multiple balances showing up here. And then also we could have seen the different currencies that are associated with this. For example, the Faerûnian standard dollars and the Faerûnian gold pieces are being linked here in the transaction. So that ends the 2 of the modules. So we ran through this really quickly, but it's really simple what we're doing. What we're doing is we're we created an invoice, a simple invoice, and then we went out and created a payment run. We paid it, and as we create more of these invoices, then this is the same process that we're going to go through. When we get to purchasing, then the only difference is that the purchasing is going to create the invoice. We're not going to use an invoice journal, and then all of the transactions are going to run through exactly the same way as well. So this was a really good example of how we can go out and start creating vendor transactions and then also impact the bank account. And since I said that, one thing we can do is if we go back to cash and bank management and look at our bank accounts, and if I go to my operating account for Faerûn Standard Dollars, and then let's see if we can see those transactions. Then here's a banknote. This was a receipt that we had from a customer. And then here's our bank transaction that we had for the payment coming that we just did through accounts payable. And these have the bank transaction types associated with them as well. So that when we go back, and if you remember back all the way back to when we set up the cash and bank management, we were doing bank reconciliation. Then these bank transactions are automatically popping through. We'll be able to reconcile these. So we've got our bank account here. I'm seeing if I look at balance control, then we can also see that we've got around about, because we have that payment of 63 Faerûn Standard Dollars, then our balance right now is going to be 1,937 Faerûn Standard Dollars. So that's less the 5 gold pieces that we had. So that's it. And we're going to stop here. We've been going for nearly 30 minutes, which is the sweet spot for these sessions. In the next episode or the next live stream, what we're going to do is we're going to finish off the accounts payable, and which means we're going to finish off all of the financial modules in the next live stream. And what we're going to do in that live stream is we're going to create some workflow approvals and see how those work, and then finish that off, which means that after that episode or that live stream, we're moving on to supply chain management and products and inventory and orders and purchase orders and all of those cool things, which I'm super excited on, because that's my favorite area. But we have to get through the financials in order to get all of this set up. So if you're interested, then check in for the next live stream, which if you're watching live should be tomorrow. And if you're not watching live, then it's just one click away and you can go on to the next live stream. And if you want to support this project, this grassroots sort of training on how Dynamics works, then you can support us through the Patreon link, which is patreon.com/ADND365. It helps keep the servers up and running, and I'll give you a shout out if you sign up, and you'll get my eternal gratitude. If you want to see these guides that we're creating, then you can see that at adnd365.com/start, where I'm posting all of these modules as they're going through the final revisions in the system. So with that, what we'll do is we'll stop, and I appreciate you all watching this, and I hope this was interesting.